Hi, everybody. Let me get the slideshow started. This is for any of you who missed class today or who just want to look at this again. We are rounding up Macbeth. We are running late, so we're rushing through Acts 4 and 5. Now, you've been through Act 4. We've already done the read along and embedded quiz on that. We haven't read Act 5 together yet, but we have seen the movie. And I know some of you all went ahead and watched the remainder of Act 5. So we know what happens. And I titled this Endgame just because I titled this slideshow Endgame. Just because if any of you play chess, you know that in chess, an endgame is where you sacrifice one of your important chess pieces in order to win the game. So maybe you will sacrifice your queen or your bishop or just something that's really important, even more than one piece. You deliberately let them be captured or killed, since we're talking about chess, just so you can win the game. And I thought this was appropriate, considering how many people Macbeth is willing to kill or have killed just to win the game, to remain king. And ultimately, he kind of sacrifices his own queen because Lady Macbeth loses her mind and then commits suicide. So let us move on. Okay, for the standards that we are working on, I know I try to keep it just to the number one for citing strong and thorough textual evidence, for explicit material as well as implied statements. And then one other one. I don't try to load too many standards in one lesson, but I couldn't decide between these two, number 2 and number 4. Today, though, since we were on a half-day schedule, we really only looked at this last one where we're looking at meanings of words and phrases, because we are going to look at that very famous opening scene for Act 4 of Macbeth with the weird sisters, also known as the witches. And I am so sorry for those of you who weren't in class today, because Michael and Aiden and I were a Shakespearean tour de force with our performance of that scene. Okay, so the learning objective is going to be the same for tomorrow as it is for today. We're going to answer a series of questions and prompts for Acts 4 and 5 at Macbeth. We're focusing today, though, on these language tricks, tricky language and techniques, and some character development. And what I want you to think about as we look at this first scene is that nothing is impossible. Keep that in mind for when we hear these prophecies laid on Macbeth in a little bit. I am not going to play the sarcastic summary since it's been a while since we read any of the play after spring break and all that good stuff. We did a summary. We looked at this summary video. We only watched it up until the end of Act 4 because we need to talk about Act 5 tomorrow. And you can pause it when they transition into Act 5. And I'll post the link to this video on Google Classroom right underneath the link for the video I'm making for you right now. We're going to skippity skips. Okay, I am not going to read this out loud. I'm going to just leave it up while I eat these grapes. And you can read through. This is the beginning of Act 4, scene. This is scene 1. And we are back with our friends, the witches. Now, what's interesting is that Hecate does come in. I cut it out because she just sort of pops in and out. But Hecate does come back to review the witches' work, and she says that they have done a good job. If you all remember the earlier scene with Hecate and the witches, it is believed this was in Act 3. It is believed, or was it Act 2? Anyway, we'll look back. It's believed that that earlier scene with Hecate was not part of Shakespeare's play. And that for some reason it was later added because it doesn't further the plot, and it really kind of doesn't, it just doesn't fit. It just sort of comes out of nowhere. And so most modern scholarship says that Shakespeare did not write that scene. Now with this one, Hecate shows up again and just says, "Good work, y'all. Good potion. Woo! Keep doing your thing." And if you remember earlier in the earlier scene, earlier in the play, she was mad at them. So maybe, I don't know. No idea why this is the way it is, but you have to remember as you read this that the people who saw this for the first time did not know who was coming to the door. Of course, we know that Macbeth is coming to see the witches. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm just going to be quiet, and I am going to give you time to read these pages. If you read it in the original here in the left under the orange stripe, you get the original cadence of the words, and you get the that rhyme and rhythm. To the right, this is the modern translation. It may be a little bit easier to understand, but it's certainly not as fun. So go ahead and read, and then we'll do something else. All right, I'm going to move on. That was a sour grape. Okay. As you see, I cut out that little section where Hecate comes in and says, "Good job," witches, to the part where someone starts knocking on the door, and we hear one of my all-time favorite lines from any play ever: "By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way come. Open locks, whoever knocks." Sorry, I got a grape in my throat there. Looking at the modern English translation from the Elizabethan English here, we have, "I can tell that something wicked is coming by the tingling of my thumbs." It's kind of like if you get kind of creeped out, if you ever get goose pimples on your arms or the hair on the back of your neck stands up. That's what she's talking about. "I can tell something wicked is coming by the tingling of my thumbs. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Doors open up for whoever's knocking." Okay, so we know that Macbeth has come to see the witches. He's paranoid. He wants more assurance that he's going to be king, that nobody can defeat him. We know that he is kind of wigging out at this point. So these were the questions that we worked on. You can go ahead and jot your answer down today. We did this on a Nearpod. When we get into class tomorrow, I'll give you a chance to fill in these questions so that I can give you credit for your thoughts. So I just answered this for you. Who's knocking? We know it's Macbeth. Now, the second question is, who is the second witch referring to when she or it, however you refer to a witch, says something wicked this way comes? Something wicked this way comes. Now, how is the identity of the quote unquote wicked one ironic? How is that ironic? We do have a Nearpod for that. Okay, so when we get back into class tomorrow, we'll jump back into the Nearpod and we'll talk a little bit about Macduff. We know that Macbeth has Macduff's whole family, not just his family, his whole household, everybody who lived in his house, everybody who worked in his house have been rounded up and slaughtered. So yeah. Okay, this is sad. And we saw that wonderful version of it when we, that was my dog, wonderful version of it when we watched the film together. So this is where we're going to pick up tomorrow. Oops. And my dog is crying, so I'm going to go now. And I will see you all tomorrow.